Welcome to Monday Morning Express. And today, Roland, we get to see what's believed to be the very first brass model train built in Japan.
Numero uno.
Exciting.
Yeah, really cool.
And we've had a few questions on our show being posted on YouTube as well as on live stream. So
isn't that nice? So a lot of customers said they couldn't access it, sometimes not too easily. So we went ahead, if you go to our YouTube channel, Monday Morning Express, you can see we have every season worth of videos listed there. You can check us out on live stream as well as our website at brasstrains.com.
And it'd be worth subscribing to our YouTube channel because we'll tell you at the end of the show some added features you're going to get there as well.
Yeah.
And so today, you're going to do project updates.
Yeah.
What's our guest?
Mr. Ed Krasinski. Yeah, we're going to go back out to California, the other half of UTI. But Ed's going to talk about 3 more projects that Chuck didn't talk about I believe it was on episode 1 this season. And so we're going to Skype in with him.
Looking forward to that.
And also, I believe we've got another item coming out of our brasstrains.com vault.
Yes, you should be interested to see what it is today. It's never changed hands before. Has a lot of historical significance. Probably the only way anybody would have seen it is if they noticed it at the 2017 Brass Expo.
Uh-oh, hint, hint.
So you'll see what it is today. So it's a good show. Let's get it started.
All right. As we mentioned on a previous episode, we get a new model in from the importer. It's already got the DCC plug installed. We're going to go through now and show how easy it is to go ahead and install a decoder and, of course, the speaker inside one of these. So we have with us from Union Terminal Imports, we have an E8, I believe it is, right?
Yes.
So go ahead and show us what we've done here. We've kind of pre-wired ahead of time, just for sake of speed, because we've seen this on previous episodes. But go ahead and show us how we can go ahead and do this quite easily.
Sure. Now, unlike the previous Steam series we did, this is more of a plug-and-play environment. Union Terminal Imports, working with Boo-Rim Precision, designed this dummy board here for the NMRA 9-pin plug. And so if you acquire a Tsunami or other manufacturer sound decoder that has that 9-pin plug, you can simply remove the one that comes with the factory and plug it into this Union Terminal model. And if you get the right speaker, it will screw right in there. And we'll go over that as we go.
Okay.
But first, just like we did in the last series, we'll go over good etiquette.
Right.
And so I've laid out this positioning here for this decoder, and I'm just going to test it. We've got it wired up to the track power.
And as you mentioned, this is always good just to repeat these steps each and every time.
That's right.
Test it before you install it inside.
Test it,
right?
Yeah. And going back to this particular prototype of this model, this is a Burlington Northern E8.
Yeah.
This locomotive had 2 EMD 567 prime movers.
Right.
And so you want to make sure that when you buy that dual 567 from the manufacturer in the decoder form, that when you get it, it's correct.
Right.
So laying this out helps.
Okay. And by the way, Boyd's not here right now, but if you mess it up, it's okay.
Good, good. I won't feel so bad then.
There you go. We won't tell him.
All right, so let's check it out. Turn the power on. We got the LED.
Yeah.
And here comes our speaker.
We hear our sound.
We hear our sound.
Yeah.
Oh, there's the second 567. Fire and fire over again. The bell works good. So we've checked that we've got a good wiring on our speaker. It is the dual 567. And so what we'll do is we'll shut our test bed down, and then we'll actually start putting this into the model in its plug-and-play form.
Okay, excellent.
So what we want to do, we'll just take this off the table. here on this Tsunami decoder, we have removed some of the purple cover. And we can simply go in here with a pair of tweezers, or even with a pair of cutters like this. You can come in alongside and just pull this green pin or plug right out of here. And see, very simple. So that is now surplus. Fortunately, in this model, Union Terminal Imports has designed inside of here for a screw hole.
So we can mount that speaker in there.
Yes.
Right?
So when you use this Railmaster high bass DSM-8 speaker, you can simply take it and drop it right in here.
And of course, we always want to mount it with the sound coming down towards the track.
Right? Either or, whatever is the preference, because on these brass locomotives, the radiator fans will allow the sound to escape.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, but for baffling purposes, sometimes it is better to have the sound face down, I have found. And so here, we have the dummy plug in the model. We'll go ahead and remove that dummy plug.
Okay. And while you do that, can I ask one question?
Sure.
So also making sure that, we've got our speaker installed, that it's not going to hit our motor, right?
Yes, and they've designed the provisions for this drivetrain to be low enough so that this speaker will fit.
Okay.
And it should not interfere with the gear tower at all either. And you can see, if we just line it up, that this flywheel on the motor...
Quick visual, you can see it's going to clear it.
Plenty of room.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to clear it. Very good.
So in this case, we're going to take the decoder, and we're going to mate to the factory pin, and we're going to plug it right in.
Okay.
And we can use our
Use the same double-sided tape.
piece of tape.
No waste.
And of course, when you're doing this at home,
Right.
you can have a little more caution. But this will sit right down on the factory light circuit. And this model
Very nice.
from the factory does have a Mars light.
And see, that really helps us because we don't have to do any extra wiring for the lights or anything because it's already been done ahead of time
No extra
by
wiring.
Blue Rim, right?
Yep, and the Keep Alive capacitor fits nicely down in there. And we
And
can
explain that Keep Alive capacitor.
So the Keep Alive capacitor on this decoder will simply allow the decoder to continue operating during very short periods of intermittent track current.
Yeah, you can see that if you've ever taken one off the track after it's been powered, you can see the lights stay on for just a little bit, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So the final step before we put the parts back into the engine is to take this pin, which goes from our factory lighting circuit, and it simply plugs right into our terminal board for the motor power.
Okay.
And that is a plug-and-play installation for a brass
That's
diesel
fast.
for the Union
Very
Terminal.
easy. Very easy to do. So
Very easy.
again, don't be intimidated by this. They've done a lot of the work for us already.
Absolutely.
And so you could just install your decoder and speaker right on in there.
Definitely. And this will go back together very nicely. And with a few minutes of programming time, you're going to have a locomotive that will not only run great, but sound great.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for that. We appreciate that. While I got you here, can I just ask you a few questions we got in via email from our callers?
Absolutely.
All right. All right. Here's our customers, rather. Here's a question that we get across the desk sometimes. When it comes to installing DCC and sound, do you have to isolate the motor? Good question.
Oh, absolutely. It's a wonderful question. And the answer is yes. And the reason for that is because if you have feedback current that goes into the motor leads from a decoder, if you feed current back into those, your decoder will have a failure.
Okay. Yeah, so you don't want to do that.
No, you don't. And that can be problematic with some of the older brass models.
Okay.
You'll have to make sure that you put a styrene shim or change it to a CAN motor that allows for the body of that CAN motor to be isolated from the contacts.
Okay, thanks. Excellent. Is it necessary to add pickups?
In some cases it is, especially if you are going to be dealing with geared engines, for example, or shop switchers that as a steam locomotive without a tender.
Sure.
Oftentimes those would come from the manufacturers with pickups, but I have found that they can be rather inadequate for reliable DCC operation. Because in direct current, if you have a short intermittent contact, usually the locomotive will skip right over that. You might lose your headlight.
Yeah.
But in DCC, it can become very jittery as the decoder tries to react to that.
Okay. All right. Excellent. And then finally, customer asks, do you have to install a CAN motor, or can you run an open frame motor on a DCC install? You know, some of these older engines, of course, they have those open frames.
Yeah, the old Pitman motors. There's a lot of them still around in brass locomotives. And the answer is you can. You can run an old open frame motor with a decoder. You just have to make sure you have enough room in your locomotive for a larger, higher amperage decoder.
Okay, so some good answers, some good questions from our customers, and we appreciate that.
Very good.
We've learned so much from you here, Scott, and we thank you for taking some time out to sharing this with us.
Been my pleasure.
You're a wealth of information. You've done so many of these installs in the past, and so we're going to go ahead and be able, well equipped to install them on our own now.
You have a picture for us of a very early brass trolley.
Oh, yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Trolley, interban.
Yes.
Yes. The model is first brass scratch built HO in Japan and now existing. It was built by Mr. Yutaka Nakao, who was editor of Hobby magazine starting in 1946. And he was also artist of carving of Buddha statue. He had run carving in art university, so his skill is very good. And that intervan was made by him in 1946, early of 1946. I had heard from him he could get a drawing from one GI officers. Often visit Tetsudo Mokeisha. With such drawing, he could make his beautiful interban. I heard that he made both O-gauge, O-scale and HO scale the same, and he presented O-scale model to that GIs. He would take back that sketchbuild model to the United States. So it would be still in somewhere in United States, same O-scale by him, and he said at that time most Japanese hobbyists were in O-scale model, so that interban was trying to make brass model in HO scale. So he said this would be first and oldest HO brass in Japan. Before he passed away, he forwarded the model to me because this is the history of Japanese. Last year, he at last passed away with 93 years old. But his skill was very good.
Did he continue to make other models then after those interurbans?
Yes, mainly for with Japanese prototype.
Okay.
But in the picture, you could see very neat windows, cutting the windows, and very neat construction of interval face. If he went to become professional builders, he would be one of top of top.
When these GIs would order these trains, did the Japanese builders think, like, were they a little surprised how much money people would spend on their hobby?
For example, HO scale models were very expensive for common Japanese at the time.
But they weren't expensive for the GI.
For us.
Because of the
Right.
yen, it wasn't that expensive.
Yes. 1,000 yen is worth to 1 month's salary of common worker at the time. So even the production Zamak diecast model, it was worth to 1 month's salary of common workers. So,
Yeah, I have a GI cab forward that was 35,000 yen.
Wow.
That's $35 at
Yeah.
that time. So even though $35, you look at it in 1960, it still was a lot of money.
Right.
But it was affordable by a GI.
Sure.
Yeah. Even though he was making $74 a month. No,
Maybe he got money back home.
They're making
though.
74
Yeah.
a month. Yeah, isn't that hard to believe? Yeah.
Yeah.
Tenshodo was very special hobby shop in Japan. Most customer is were not Japanese, but GI officers or GI businessmen, United States.
And I warn you, fellas, don't take your wife in there because it's going to cost you a lot of money. They sell a lot of jewelry, I found out.
Our ages always talk the memory about Tenshodo at the time. Every boy ordered by their mothers, if you go to Tenshodo, change the clothes better.
The other trick at Tenshodo, most Americans think it's only 3 floors. There's a 4th floor. That's where the Japanese get to go.
What's on the 4th floor?
No, the used models.
Okay.
It took Dave and I 20 years, and we finally got up to the 4th floor.
Someday we could have some brass model by Tenshodo. That was boy's dream.
Yes.
Yeah, Nimoto-san was a very, very gracious person. Yes, the owner of the shop.
Right.
Yeah.
And he obviously loved the trains.
Oh, he
they
did.
produced.
Only Tenshodo I could see their workshop because I was youngest customer in their history because I went to visited them from my 1 year old. So everyone in Tenshodo very
Knew him.
So I was one time I was allowed to visit their workshop. I believe I am only hobbyist, amateur hobbyists visiting Tenshodo's workshop. At the time, they were producing Great Northern Pacific Z6 in their shops. I could see soldering, painting.
You saw the top secret stuff.
Yeah. As noted earlier in our season on MME, we had talked with Mr. Chuck Stead of UTI, but today, by means of Skype, we're going to talk with Mr. Ed Krasinski, the other half of UTI. So Ed is on with us with Skype. How you doing today, Ed?
Doing great, Roland. How about yourself?
Oh, doing well. So we're in Florida, you're out in California, and we're on the other ends of the states here. Our temperature is way too hot. How about you guys?
You know, woke up with an extra blanket on the bed this morning. It's definitely fall, and
don't brag.
There's chill in the air.
Very good, very good. Well, ours is coming soon too, so we can't wait for it down here. Hey, listen, Ed, while we got you on the line, you know, when we were with Chuck, it was in episode 1 of this season. We had talked with him about delivery of the Cross Mafes, and we know that those, in fact, are just about to be delivered. Am I right?
They are. So They left the manufacturing plant a week or so ago, so they're at the painter, and that usually goes pretty quick. Chuck will actually have 4 or all of the models' production samples at the Southern Pacific Historical and Technical Society meet in a few weeks in Monterey. For any West Coast folks that might be out that way, the production models will be there.
Excellent. So we're looking forward to that. He also mentioned about the IC, the E units, also the Pullman sleepers. So that's some great projects you guys got going. But today we're going to focus in on a couple that you want to tell us about, a couple that you really have a nice passion for. And maybe the first one we could start with is the Da643s. So tell us a little bit about those. I know you sent me a nice package here. What do we have in our hands?
So the package you have is one of 13 packages, if you will, that we put together and send to Korea for the inception of the project activity. So we send these packages. They're very graphical, and so Seiho can have a look at them and understand the subtleties and the small details that typically haven't been caught before. Certainly never in the Da643s that have been done. This is a project that follows along the same process as the PAs and the Cross Mafes. So it took a much closer or deeper dive into the detail aspects, and this is a good way to convey those to him.
These are some nice drawings. Who does the drawings for you?
So again, along the same lineage of the PAs and the Cross Mafes, we're very, very fortunate to have Bob Zank working with us. Bob is a longtime collaborator in the model world and has helped many manufacturers do research and data packages similar to this. But he's passionate about not only the PAs and I'm sure you could agree that comes forward in the models, but also the Cross Mafes. Bob is a member of the PLA, the Pacific Locomotive Association in Niles Canyon, where you guys visited with Chuck earlier in the season. And Bob is a key member of that activity, restoring the only remaining Cross Mafe to running there at Niles Canyon in Northern California.
Yeah, I recall.
And Bob is he's a child of the 60s, like most of us, right? And he watched and lived and breathed this stuff. He lived in Fresno at the time. He lived down at the depot, so he saw all of the PAs. He saw F units. He saw Black Widow. He saw the DHs. He saw the Cross Mafes. So it's something that has hung on with him. And we're very, very fortunate. He's incredibly detail focused.
Yeah, I recall being out there at Niles Canyon. Beautiful place, and certainly got to see a lot of these locomotives up close and personal, which was nice. So after this package is sent to Seiho or to Korea, so what happens then? What do they get back to you? So
with that package goes over to Korea, and the next thing we will see is 3-dimensional CAD drawings. And so the CAD drawings will come back, and they will go into the specifics of how the folks at Boo Rim have interpreted the package and how they intend to represent that in the model form. And it's pretty straightforward. I think Chuck may have shared a couple 3D CADs with you in the past and with the audience. of passenger cars. I think maybe the IC observation car was shown. Same project, same process is involved there. Once we approve the 3D CADs, then the tooling and all of the different casting processes are all commence at that point.
Very nice. So from a typical project, so to speak, so from the moment that you get commitment, you know that the project is a go. On average, what could you say, or what has been your experience as to how long it takes to go through all of this to final delivery?
You know, it really obviously depends on the size. You know, the E-unit project, there was dozens of them. But in the case of a singular project like the PAs were about a 2-year project. The crosses are going to be a little bit longer because we didn't initially get the reservations necessary for them. Then we trimmed it down a little bit and then subsequently did. So the Cross Maffei project is probably more like 4 years, but the PAs are probably a nominal example.
Yeah, that's incredible. The amount of detail, research, and everything else that goes into making us a model that we finally get. No wonder customers are so eager for them. It takes a long time, but we certainly appreciate why when we look at pages such as this. So we appreciate all the hard work that goes into it. Now, in speaking about these DH643s, now how many different versions are there that we're able to see in this?
In the DH643 prototype, there were only three total. So, and in the course of their life with the Southern Pacific, they were pretty much three different, or they had three general differences of appearance, and three different road numbers. So we're doing 9 models, each of the three in each of the 3 configurations. We're also doing a 3-unit set that includes all 3 as delivered.
And reservations are still open on all of those?
They are still open, yes.
Okay, very good. If we could switch gears for a moment, let's talk about another project. Boy, one that really has been gaining a lot of steam. I believe you guys have an ad for it in the Narrow Gauge Gazette, and that is your Southern Pacific Narrow Gauge project. Tell us a little bit about that.
So the SP Narrow Gauge project came to us interesting. We had a number of folks asking us, would we do steam engines? And would you ever consider this? And so a number of our friends are involved with the restoration of SP number 18 out in Eastern California in Mono County. And so and it's one of those things that I'm kind of interested in. I spent a lot of my younger years on that, in the Owens Valley where these trains ran, and seeing them. They were, at the time, number 18 was stuffed and mounted in a park, but over the years, and there's been a number of really excellent publications that document that narrow gauge line really in depth. And so, Chuck and I talked about it after a large number of requests. We decided to take a jump in, and Seiho was pretty excited about it. Seiho really is a steam aficionado himself, so he really likes the steam engines, and so we got his buy-in with it. And what we decided to do is to do models that are obviously current technology and current level of detail. And so, Division Point's doing some really, really excellent HON3, or has done with the K27-28 project, were excellent. And Jack's new K36 and 37 projects are just going to be fantastic. And so we are leveraging off of, Seiho's ability to do, that work at that level in that size, because they're pretty small, and so it's pretty much a nexus of all the right pieces coming together at the right time.
Yeah, to bring all that out into narrow gauge is absolutely phenomenal. And I believe with that project, because you're doing steam version, diesel, some combines and other cars there, there's a total of like 18 mixed in with that project of different models that our customers can reserve, correct?
There are 7 versions of the steam locomotives, of the 3 steam locomotives. So we're modeling the 3 that survived into the 50s. And then there was 1 diesel, and we're doing it in 3 different paint schemes, and then a number of the cars that went with them. At this point, we have enough to do the steam engines. We have enough reservations, and we're close on the diesels. The passenger cars are good. I think we could use some more on the freight cars. So if anyone's interested in that, please let you know so you can let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a ton of reservations already, but we certainly can use a few more. Before we let you go, I just wanted to say a little bit about the Norfolk Southern Heritage Project. Briefly tell us how that's coming along.
Right. So if you recall, before Overland Models slowed or ceased the production, they had announced or talked about them. And so, the brass manufacturing or importing community is a pretty small group. And, we know Brian Marsh over at Overland very well. And, in talking to you folks and Brian, it seemed that there was an opportunity to leverage Brian's excellent photography and work on that and bring them forward into the Norfolk Heritage project that we're all working on now. So right now that's in the drawing stage. So we're working on the CAD drawings on this side of the ocean. And as soon as the CAD drawings are done here, we're going to send them over to Korea to have a look.
Excellent. Well, we thank Brian and Missy. We know they put a lot of work into that too, and also for helping you guys out. So you guys got a lot going on. Boy, we certainly commend you for all that you're doing. As we mentioned, Chuck at the beginning of the season mentioned those projects. We got these 3 additional ones here. So a lot's happening at Union Terminal Imports, which is also good for the business. So certainly appreciate you taking a few minutes out and talking with us, Ed. And I would say stay warm, but we're pretty warm. Stay cool out there, all right, buddy?
Yeah, we'll keep the cool for now.
All right. Thanks, Ed, for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Roland.
All right.
See ya.
So we really appreciate Ed joining us on our project updates. But other projects we wanted to bring to your attention from other importers. First of all, we wanted to mention that we talked with Jack over at Division Point. He tells us about the K36s and 37s, which we had mentioned there earlier. That project is coming along nicely, but please, if you're wanting to reserve any models from this project, you need to get those in as soon as possible because some of the items are already sold out, and we certainly expect delivery on these before the end of the year, we're told, so looking forward to that. Also, the conical tank car pilot models are in at the Division Point, so that means that we're going to expect delivery not too long thereafter in the near future. We have both the short fat dome as well as the narrow skinny dome versions in both paint schemes still available. Also, the HO scale center cab project. Now, this is another project that has really received a lot of reservations. 20 different versions are going on in this project. Some are already sold out, so be sure to get them before they're all gone. And finally, the Chesapeake and Ohio steam turbine M1 project. 5 different versions that you can order from. And if you'll notice on our site, you can either order those with or without the DCC and sound. So make sure as you're going along to select the right one of which version that you want, and we'll certainly make sure to get those orders for you. The code chart. Fred Hill has some new announcements to be aware of. The 1950s Starlight, that 9-car set, as well as additional add-on cars. Also, he announced the CB&Q anniversary trains, 3 different versions or sets of those, as well as the 1940 Eagle and the 1950s Missouri River Eagle, which has the EMD E3 for pulling power. So these will come in 2 different paint schemes, the as delivered as well as the modified paint schemes. And finally, we talked with Jimmy Booth over at Glacier Park Models regarding the PRR T1s. He says that project is progressing nicely. The castings and the drivers are done, and the process for ordering the etchings for the body are next. We have a nice amount of reservations on these 6 different versions already, so check them out on our website, and if you haven't reserved yours, be sure to get that in today. That's going to do it for this week's project updates.
Now we got to dress up the windows. There's so many different window treatments. You have to look at a car's design. Where are the bathrooms and where's the chairs and which ones are bedrooms? A lot of cars were lounges and they had Venetian blinds. So there's my best resources are books, to just open up books and to see what was in that location. What's on the other side of that window, There might be an aisleway right here.
Sure.
And yeah, technically this car does have an aisleway right here. And so on the aisleway, I would use stainless steel wire at Details West or it's Details West who offers like that stainless steel wire. And like I said before, you just go right in between the windows and then you come in with your wire, lay your wire, because inside the cars they had a handrail. So when you were walking down the aisles, you could hold on to the handrail.
Okay.
And so there was a wire,
so that's
and
good
above
representation of it,
was a shade. So let me drop a little bit of glue in there so you can see what shades look like.
Yeah.
That way we can get our shade material ready. So We'll do one window.
Okay.
Okay. So as the glue is drying, I will show you. All right, this product right there, the black.
The black one.
I use Evergreen's black, and what's the? It's
9511.
9511.
All right.
That stuff, I do the same thing. Take it out, and there's a bunch of. You get your money's worth out of this one. And the reason I use black plastic is that when you look inside the car, you want it as dark as possible from one end. You don't want to see a white shade, because there were no white shades. It was just usually dark. So I'll cut it at 26 millimeter, and I can cut them at different sizes. The reason I choose to go with different sizes,
Up, down, some of them.
yeah,
Yeah,
because
position, right?
position of the window shades. Not all window shades were at the same height.
All window shades are equal.
Yeah, well, some cars had them equal. It just depends on the room attendant. Or, you know what? Going down a hallway, this is an aisleway, and usually all the window shades were up. And so, yeah. So when this gets mounted from the inside, but before I mount it, I'm gonna paint it. So I'll attach these to, like, let's say a piece of wood. Right. Then I can spray it silver, and one side will be silver, and then one side will be black. And here it goes right here. Silver, and then black on the other side. And so then I can come in from the opposite side, and then, well, the glue's still drying, but I can place this in there like this, you know? So we'll wait for the glass to dry. But a longer piece, or a wide piece of plastic, this would be for a bedroom. The narrow pieces of plastic would be for an aisleway. So you get your very thin pieces, spray it silver, you know, you could I use spray cans, you know, as long as the paint adheres to plastic. And so once you spray it on one side, there's no reason to spray silver on both sides. Put your contact cement in there, let it dry. Now, I try to avoid, like for an aisleway where you have to put a long stretch of shades.
Right.
I'll make it to a more manageable size because plastic will bend on you. So, I'll cut it to smaller sections where maybe like every 2 windows will be part of a shade. Let me explain that. Yep. Whoops. So, okay, while the glass is in there, I think I can come in with this. Oh, let me get the simulated. So in the car, I'll come in from underneath, a more manageable. If you try to go in there with a big strip, you're gonna hit the side of cars. You can create webs. Go in there with something that you can deal with, comfortably, and then just place it in there. You're gonna end up with something. And so just work your way down the aisle. Sure. And just
looks good.
And then with your handrail in there, your stainless steel handrail down the aisle, it'll simulate a passenger car aisle. But let's just say that down here there was a restroom. The restrooms,
a little different.
You gotta have your privacy, So I use product V-Groove. V-Groove is a channeled plastic from Evergreen, and it's sort of like a solid sheet, but it's got
all those little lines in it.
Yeah,
right?
a bunch of lines. You look at it. It's used for like boxcar sidings or so. This stuff, I just purchased it and painted silver. Cut little squares, and you're gonna put it right behind here. So behind the glass, well, there's no glass right there in that section, but let me get an area where there's glass. Well, let me put a little piece of glass there. And then we'll put the V-Groove in. Stay awake, folks. Stay awake. Okay. All right. Now, the colors are pretty important. Why silver? A lot of the silver materials when the railroads, there were some railroads that would want their cars to match, like the Pennsylvania. They would put the burgundy or
Their color,
their colors on the outside. But majority of the cars had silver, and the silver was to reflect the heat away from the car. You didn't want to put black shades, even though you wanted it to to keep the sun out, but you're going to roast inside the car. So they would put silver shades. Now, the first heavyweight Pullmans that were coming out, they came out with green or like olive drab. Olive drab is great for like heavyweight Pullmans. So the same thing. I just grab the black plastic, just buy the olive drab for military models. Just go and spray that, and you can use that as your window shade for heavyweights. But throughout the years, after the railroads had the cars for a long time and their shades were starting to get in bad shape, they were just buying silver shades to reflect it better. So
you're safe with the silver no matter what.
Yeah, yep. But we got to do our homework and look through books. I mean, the Rio Grande had orange. There were other roads that had their own colors. So, but I'd say like 80% of them are silver. So, all right, let me cut a piece of plastic out here. So I just put in the glass for the bathroom, and now behind the glass, never put the V groove. It's got to be behind the glass. Behind the glass. So we'll put this in place. Yeah. And then get your line straight. All right, do an inspection right there.
Look at that.
You got a bathroom.
Boy, the only window I see missing is the one you got glued over there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So then now the vestibule window.
There you go. Put her in.
All righty. Let me grab
tweezers for that?
I'm going to need my tweezers.
No worries. Then we're fine.
Yeah.
So that one would go there.
Well, we promised you a very special item from our vault, and here it is. This item is special in many ways. This is a Pacific Fast Mail, Denver and Salt Lake 2660. Now, you've heard us many times talk about these silver-plated models, which were used by Pacific Fast Mail in their advertising. Now, we call them silver-plated, but they're actually nickel-plated. And the reason Pacific Fast Mail chose to do that to their pilot models wasn't simply for the look, but it was how it photographed back in the day, how it took the shadows and so forth. Well, this model is very unique because, for one thing, very few O-scale models got this treatment from Pacific Fast Mail. Furthermore, this is a much later run than they normally did the silver plating with. This was actually made in the very early 80s by Sam Hansa, and the detail is quite spectacular. Actually, this model is pretty rare in any form, but particularly with the silver plating. Also, the plating is just so spectacular on this model. It's so crisp. As you can see in the photos, it would make a beautiful display item for someone. What makes it even more special is what comes with it. One of the nicest packages I've ever seen as far as the original research and design materials, the full drawings with all the markings made by Don Drew or others that were involved in the project, and perhaps some in Korea as well. Very detailed. There's even sample parts here from Sam Hansa and various letters going back and forth, correspondence between Sam Hansa and Pacific Fast Mail. There's also photographs of the prototype, photographs that were used in advertising of the model. And so it's really a complete package to give you a little insight on the model itself and what went on behind the scenes to get this model produced. Now, this particular model has been featured in the Brass Expo in 2017. However, it has never really changed hands before. It was owned by Don Drew of Pacific Fast Mail. When we had the opportunity to handle that collection, I was able to purchase this model from the estate at that time, and until now it's never been offered for sale. So this is a very special model, and the first chance that the world will have an opportunity to own it. So we'll have this listed after our show today. Be sure to go on and check it out for more details.
Good morning. My name is Jerry Spoma. You're watching Monday Morning Express.
All right, Roland, episode 8, closing up.
You know
Only
what that
2
means?
episodes left.
Yeah. So, you know what, Dan? We've run into a problem.
A good problem.
A good problem. We've got so much information that we can't fit it in. We'd be talking about 2 and 3 hour episodes, and well, that might not be a good thing, right?
Yes, combined with the problem that we've been getting some viewer feedback. They love the how-tos, but rather than going back and watching, the various segments, they would like to see that all in one location. So what?
Right. So here's what we're going to do. We have a plan, right? So what we're going to do is to finish out the season, our how-tos, for example, our how-to with Hal, great segments that we've been able to record here. Instead of just having all these chopped up versions, we're going to take all of those and put them all together in one. And so over the course of the break, you're going to be able to see on our YouTube channel, on live stream, on our website, you're going to be able to see these outtakes. And in these outtakes, what we'll do is we'll name the how-to video, whether it's how-to with Hal or how-to in our weathering series that we've done, our how-tos with Boyd. You can find them all in one convenient spot. So that's a little easier if you want to take the time to go through and watch all of them together.
Right, so it'll have additional footage that they haven't seen yet, because it'll be everything they've already seen, and then they'll close that out.
Absolutely.
So another reason, like we mentioned at the outset, to subscribe to the YouTube channel, then should be notified and see as those go up. So that'll be a nice thing to be able to enjoy for those interested in it. Well, it's been another great episode. We'll look forward to next week, and let's listen to a little preview of what's to come.
Next week on Monday Morning Express, we finish our segment with Kenichi Matsumoto by discussing some of the greatest brass model train builders of all time. Dan pulls out a very famous and desirable model from the BrassTrains.com vault. You may have seen his videos on YouTube. Now, James Wright visits with Dan in the studio.